This is a 2025 Honda CB650R with an e-clutch. And the question that everyone wants to know is, what the heck is an e-clutch and why do we hate it? We hate it because it's new and different, because we feel like they're doing what Chevy did to us with the last generation of the Corvette. They're gonna make them automatic. I don't like that. It kind of makes me mad because motorcycles, cars, fast cars, it's not all about ET. As much as women say that guys don't want to talk about their feelings, I like the feeling of driving a manual car through the corners. That's a feeling that I like talking about. If you take away the shifting and you make motorcycles automatic, you're basically driving a scooter. However, that's not what they did here. But to fully understand this bike, we got to go back to where it started. The Honda CB has been out since 1959 with the original CB92, which stood for City Bike. But that did not last long because it evolved 10 years later when the CB750 came out with the world's first superbike. It continued to evolve, and now the CB family takes up most of the Honda lineup in one way or the other. But in 2019, Honda created the first ever CB650R, and with a few exceptions, it has mostly stayed the same until 2025. And they made a few changes with this. One, different color changes, that's normal for the different years. The second biggest change is this very large infotainment screen, which allows you to connect with Honda Road Sync, which allows you to connect your comm system to here and your phone to here, so you can do maps, GPS, weather information, music, and you can control it with the bike, which is actually pretty cool because you're like, how do you listen to music on your bike? Well, you normally do it with your phone. So this is replacing your phone, and the controls are here instead of you trying to use your phone with your gloves or taking your taking your glove off when you're riding. This makes it much more, let's be honest, safe. And then they added the other big elephant in the room, and that is the e-clutch, which we will get to in a moment. Let me just, before we get all about the clutch, let me continue telling you a little more about the bike. Coming in at a starting price of $93.99, the CB650R is kind of the unsung hero. It's a great looking bike, a really cool looking bike, and it is super fun and incredibly comfortable. And for a pretty reasonable price, considering some of the top of line motorcycles out there are in excess of $50,000. The sport-derived inline 4-cylinder motor puts down 94 horsepower, that's not bad. And then through the chain drive, comes back to these 17-inch wheels. This is the same size tire that they run on the 600 Super Sports, and you have it on this. So basically, you have a motorcycle with the characteristics of a super sport bike, the big power, fast engine, high revving, sport bike wheels and tires, awesome looks, less body work. It is a little bit heavier. The suspension is not as good, but it's significantly more comfortable and significantly cheaper. It only gets you about 90% of the performance as a super sport, but for the road, most people won't be using all that performance, but in reality, you should not be using all that performance on the road. Save that stuff for the track. So let's talk about the e-clutch that we all are hating, but I'm liking more and more. Actually, I don't hate it. Before you guys start sending out mean letters to Honda, let me explain to you the biggest thing about it. Honda figured out a way to give you the best of both worlds, and normally it doesn't work that way. Underneath this is a regular, conventional, irregular clutch. So all the e-clutch is doing is it's got a regular clutch, it goes on top of it, and it electronically controls the clutch for you. So when you're shifting up or shifting down, you don't need to grab the clutch. Now you might think it's not anything new. They've been doing stuff like that. They've had quick shifts and stutter boxes for a long time. It's a different system. The way those systems work is there's a millisecond in there. When it feels that you're about to shift, it'll cut out the ignition or the fuel, and for one little millisecond, you don't even notice it. It takes the load off the transmission, and then you shift in easily. What this is doing is it's actually manually itself with electronic servo pulling the clutch in and pulling it out, which means it has the ability to start off without using the clutch, like this. The clutch is already pulled in, so this is kind of dead right now. I know this is making you guys cringe right now. I'm gonna pop this thing into gear. It does the clutch for me. I know what you're thinking. You're like, Sean, but what's the negative? What's the downside? The best thing about it is, if this thing fails, it's a normal bike. If you want it to be, just by using the clutch, it becomes a normal bike again. You have to not use it for it to work. It only added 4.5 pounds to the whole thing. The only downside is just it's kind of bulky, so I imagine if you lay the bike over, that's what's gonna get hit first. I have not laid the bike over, I don't actually know that. But what I like is that they added new tech, but if that new tech breaks, I've got my normal same bike again, and it's not really gonna be a problem. Now the big question is, can it do a burnout? And we'll find that out later, but also why? What I think is going on here is this is a test. A test to see how this will work in the real world before they put it on the real application of what they want to put it on. The two biggest bikes that Honda makes that actually make them real money. The Goldwing and the Africa Twin. Now I know this might be far-fetched. Stay with me for a second. This technology on here, it's cool. I don't know if it really makes sense. I'm not sure if it's gonna sell any more bikes. Put that on a Goldwing or an Africa Twin, now you're selling more bikes, because that makes sense. For an adventure bike, you're riding your adventure bike and you're doing really slow stuff and you stall it out. That would never happen with this. Or you're in deep mud and you're clutching in and then you stall it out. That would never happen with this. There's so many situations where that would never happen. But you say people solve that with the Recluse clutch or the DCT. The DCT's a great system, but does not solve the problem. It solves that problem, but then it creates another problem, where what if you have a log in front of you and you gotta clutch it up and ride a wheelie or something like that? You can't do it on the DCT. You have to rely on the power of the bike. And they're powerful, they're not that powerful. So what this would do for the bigger bikes, the Africa Twin and the Goldwing, it gives you the best of both worlds, and I think is actually a really good selling point of why people would want to buy that model. And that's why I think Honda decided to test it out on this bike to see how it works. Now we're gonna test this bike out right now, because I'm dying to see what this thing runs like, and I know you guys are too. This is Joe's dog, Duke. He's a ball of energy, a master frisbee catcher, and Joe's best friend. Duke's always up for an adventure, so he needs a great diet to keep him full of fuel. That's why Joe started feeding him Sundays for Dogs. Sundays is fresh and healthy, human-grade real meat, organs, and superfood. No synthetic junk or preservatives. Vet-formulated, made in the USA. It's legit food you can tell is good. Duke's coat is slicker, he's not picky anymore about his food, and it's shelf-stable, so no freezer hassle. Before Sundays, Joe was stuck with options that just didn't cut it. Greasy canned stuff, dry food that's been looking like it's been sitting on the shelf for decades, looked like cardboard, and Duke didn't really like it. And honestly, I don't blame him. Sunday has changed that with food that's as real as it gets, keeping Duke ready to chase frisbees and tear around the yard like a champ. You want your dog as energetic like Duke? Get 50% off of your first order at sundaysfordogs.com/SRK or use code SRK at checkout. Sundays for Dogs, real food, real results. I got my gear on. Let's do the words of wisdom real quick. James 1:2. Count it all joy, my brothers, when you meet trials of various kinds, for you know that the testing of your faith produces steadfastness, and let steadfastness have its full effect, that you may be perfect and complete, lacking in nothing. And it keeps on going. It's really James is a really great book. If you're looking for a good book to read of the Bible that's fairly simple, easy to understand, James. I put on my M1 Moto gloves. So I'm excited to see how this thing runs. All right, I'm just gonna do it. Pop it in gear. Haha. My camera bike stalled, loser. This bike is not slow. I know, I'm aware that the 650 is like the entry level into other things. They've gotten a lot faster lately, and it's a lot of fun. The shifting up and down is very fast. Without the clutch, it feels flawless. It feels like it has a quick shift on it. The other aspect is when you're launching. You know, the question I have is, can I launch faster than the bike can? And we'll figure that out. We'll get to the back roads and we'll actually figure that out. Also, the other question everyone wants to know is, it's not in the mode. How do I get it back into that mode? I feel like I need to turn the bike off, start it, There we go. All right. All right, now we're in the mode. Let's see if, Joe, let's see if it'll do a burnout. It's spinning, but the ABS didn't like it. It's spinning now? Yeah, kind of. The ABS is like, no, I don't want to do it. I wonder if I can turn that off. So unless you can figure out how to turn off the ABS and you're looking for an ideal burnout bike, now obviously all the systems could be turned off somehow, avoiding warranties and whatnot. But I mean, I know you guys were thinking, you're like, this E-clutch is gonna be a big deal. It's gonna be a big thing. I don't even notice that it's on here. Like when it's telling me to drop. It's telling me I'm in third gear. You need to drop gears. What's cool about it is, unlike a DCT, that's just instantly in the next gear. If I'm going slow, I can feel this thing slipping the clutch. I can feel it easing out. But obviously, when I'm shifting fast, and you'd be on the clutch in lightning speed, it just does it all. It does it all itself. I don't notice it. If I forget that it's there and I grab the clutch, it's not a problem. It's not a big deal. I just grab the clutch and then it kicks back into the mode and I can quick shift like I was before. And I think this is great. I think this is really great. Let's forget the E-clutch. Forget that it's got a 4.5 pound thing on the bike, and forget the fact that I wore the wrong jeans because I was wearing a test drive and I got exposed knees, which is super dumb. I know the commenters. I know it's dumb. I'm just not gonna go that hard. So forget about that stuff. So a good bike to compare this to, and not in some ways, but not other ways, and I'll explain, would be the FZ07 or the MT07. And I have to say, I love that motorcycle, but I really like this, but they're similar, but different. You know what I'm talking about. Big differences. The FZ is a twin, and the power is very low end. It's got great low and mid, and it's not a real high speed bike. This is almost the opposite. It's an inline 4, all the power is at the top end. This is more like a sport bike, a super sport bike in that realm, where the MT is more like a adventure bike, or for lack of better power, it's not an adventure bike, but the power delivery is more like that of one. They both accomplish the same thing. They're both very good, naked street fighter bikes. Once we get up here, we'll be able to get on some windy road, and we'll see how this thing stretches its legs out. So I can put it back in the automatic clutch mode by just popping it in neutral. So the learning curve for me is, if I'm not clutching, I feel like I'm not supposed to shift. That's something I gotta figure out. Extremely comfortable. It feels so nimble. Like, this is the bike you wanna jump on. You wanna ride an hour to the canyons. You wanna shred the canyons, ride back. It's like do all the fun motorcycle stuff without being completely laid over, you know, full-blown super sport bike stuff. Also, with that, 94 horsepower, that's pretty stout. Like, I'm in 5th gear, and it just effortlessly at the low RPMs, where there's no, it's not the big power band, it just pulls. It pulls great. It seems like a lot of times motorcycles that no one's talking about are kind of the coolest bikes out there. Like, this looks good, but when you ride it and you realize how much fun it is, how well it does all the things that it does, it starts to look even better. Now, you would think it'd be lighter than what it is. Let me explain to you why that is. The naked bikes have always just been heavier, maybe 50, 60 pounds heavier than their sport bike counterpart. And the reason is, that's what you're kind of paying for it. They save a lot of money when they're building it by not using like adamantium claws and titanium whatever. That's what they're doing to save money. It might not be an aluminum swing arm, it might be a steel swing arm. I don't know what this one is, but just as an example, They're not using the lightest stuff to shave off all the weight, and they're passing that value right back to you when you buy the bike, because that's why it's cheaper. Unless you're bench pressing it or really like trying to hit those hit some high performance levels, it doesn't make any difference. All right, so I'm gonna do a 0 to 60, and I'm gonna do it with the automatic mode. 1, 2, 3, go. There a while ago. I tell you what, that was quick. I can definitely beat it myself. If I was on manual mode, I could do a better launch than Honda can. Guaranteed. All right, let's see if I can do it better myself. I arrogantly think I can. No. There. It went from 59 to 67 instantly. They should put that in the manual. Goes from 59 to 67 in 0 time. No amount of time. It just skips it. So overall, how do I rank this bike? Man, this bike is fun. Would I have one of these in my garage? I totally would. It'd be a blast. What would be even more fun would be if all my friends had bikes like this, and we all just did this type of canyon carving and just hitting corners and having a blast, eating crayons, doing whatever those people do. It's a really fun bike. You really can't say it's slow. Yeah, there's faster bikes. If I had the chance to opt in for the auto clutch after riding it, I totally would. Like, I think it's cool. And I'm excited to see what they do and what other platforms they're gonna put that on. I don't think it takes anything away from the way the bike is itself. A bug just hit me right in the cheek. And if you're wondering if this bike pulls faster than the BMW camera bike, Joe, what gear are you in? Third? I'll get in third. All right, Joe, you say go. I'll give you the jump, you say go. Well, you can see that Joe's bike is incredibly torquey, and he's got all that low end power, so he pulled first, but then once my bike got up to speed and Joe started slowing down, I started pulling away. How this thing would compare in a real race, head-to-head drag race, I think I would eventually, maybe about 70 miles an hour, start pulling away from him. Does it want to wheelie? Yes, it is. It's keeping me down. What's this? There's a T button. What's this mean? Well, under the normal configuration, the traction control is keeping you down. What there needs to be on these motorcycles is another key. We're like, here's the key with all the stuff on it. Here's the key that's just fun, and it keeps the settings as long as the key's in there. Because a lot of these bikes like to default back to the other settings, like the boring, the safe settings. So riding a motorcycle like this, I would feel much more comfortable wearing at least Kevlar lined jeans, but I'd feel just as comfortable in a 2-piece racing suit and really having a lot of fun on these corners, not pushing it to the limits, but just pushing it a little bit farther than what you want to do wearing jeans with the knees cut out. Because I happen to like the skin on my knees. It's my favorite skin. I will say this, some of these driver's aids are great for new riders. New riders don't have to be so intimidated with faster bikes because they're not going to just wheelie out of control or do whatever. But I want to be able to turn that stuff off really easily and keep it off. All right, guys, that wraps it up. I'm gonna continue driving this bike because this thing is fun. We'll see you guys next time. Also, you might like this video right here.